during the course of the conference or webinar, kind of luncheon, if you would just keep your audio muted and your video off, so that everybody will be able to enjoy the panelists and some of the slides that they will be sharing. Also, during the presentation and during the panel, don't forget that you can ask questions using the group chat, and we'll keep those monitored. I know that everyone's on a tight schedule, so let's kind of dispense with some of the formalities and let's get this party started. I do want to introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Carrie Bynum, the president of BLR Further. It's a local agency here, and for more than 25 years, Carrie has been an award-winning creative director, writer, and marketing planner for clients in the healthcare, retail, financial, high-tech, and manufacturing service areas. BLR Further has been around since 1986, and very, very fortunate to have you part of the panel today. And thank you for taking time out of what I know is a very busy schedule. We also have Cindy Martin, who is the founder and president of BHAM Now, which is a digital information platform. It's 3.5 years old now, and BHAM Now has been a great resource for a lot of people in the Birmingham area. Previous to starting BHAM Now, Cindy was the CEO of AL.com from its inception in 1997 to serving as the president of the Alabama Media Group in 2012 and overseeing all of the state's newspapers. So we have a lot of experience there. We're also fortunate to have Dana McGaugh, who is the director of PR and social engagement at Cayenne Creative. She brings a wealth of experience to this panel, and especially since social media is how a lot of the information is being pushed out. We're very excited to have her. She brings 12 years of experience crafting and executing communication strategy on behalf of clients ranging from national corporations to local nonprofits. Dana has led the team on some very high-profile accounts, including Rave Cinema, the Southeastern Conference, the BJCC, Railroad Park, Coca-Cola, and more. We're just glad to have Dana and her years of experience with us. We're going to kick off the panel with Richard Fudge. Richard is the senior systems artist at Baptist Memorial Healthcare. He is based in Memphis. He oversees the design work for 22 hospitals, which is extremely relevant for what we're talking about today. He is part of AAF Memphis, and again, he designs and manages multiple products from concept to production for Baptist, for Memorial Baptist Systems and their 22 hospitals. Good design for the greater good is his motto, and the amount of work that he has been cranking out for 22 hospitals over the past few weeks has got to be mind-boggling. So let's open it up. Each one of our panelists is going to take a few minutes, and then we're going to open it up for questions. Richard, go.
All right. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. I'm going to share my screen, if you don't mind. Let's see. So I can show you some samples here. Ava, do you want to try just sharing it, and I'll tell you when to advance? There we go.
There we go.
Excellent. All right. Okay. Well, let's skip this one. All right, here we are. David did a great job introducing me. I just put that in there in case somebody comes back and looks at it later. Let's go to the next one. All right, so we started out our COVID response with two materials. We made, on the left, you'll see we made a mirror cling that we distributed to our hospitals to put in every bathroom, and we also gave it to employees so they could take a couple home. We also sent out and posted this COVID-19 fact sheet that had a bunch of information about how it spreads, the symptoms, how to protect yourself and your loved ones. But as we have learned during this, things change quickly. So if you'll click to the next slide, please. We found out that things had to change when we had a hospital that had a patient, and there were different concerns about whether it was still safe to come into the hospital, and we had to make it a different version that was easier for them to print. And if we just click again and just pull up all those samples. Soon we had different signage needs, all kinds of different notices that we had to keep simple so that they could easily be printed by the hospital if they needed to on site, or just so they would be clean and easy for visitors. If you'll go to the next slide. Keep going. So here are some of the lessons I've learned. With COVID-19, speed has been everything. We've had to make files so that hospitals can print them as needed. We've had to be cognizant of the legibility, whether or not it's going to print okay on an average to poor copier. We've had to partner with print vendors to find ones that would drop everything to make it happen. And I recommend that you print conservatively because things seem to change week to week, if not day to day on this. And you also need to make sure that you're communicating with those in the field, those that are doing operations. Sometimes the best made plans don't always get all the way to the front line. Next. Something that I've found useful, we do have a job numbering system at Baptist. If you look up in the top corner there, there's a little job number, but I've also started adding dates to everything because, like I said, we've had so many revisions. That has been important. We've also had to slap draft on some items because as it's gone out for approvals, we've had people gun-ho to get it out there, print something that wasn't approved. So we've been adding draft to things. Like I said, communications has been key on everything, making sure that we've got all the approvals that we need. You go to the next slide. Keep going until it's all up there. So one of the issues we had is we needed to set up a mobile screening unit behind our ER to alleviate volume in the ER and route people outside of that. So we had this challenge of how do you wrap a van when you can't move it because it's being set up for patients, and how do you direct people to that van? And we had a great vendor who suggested some Velcro and chloroplast, which was the best we could do given the time, and yard signs that he delivered at like 2 a.m. to make it happen. Keep going. And we've tried to make best use of our social media, sharing a lot of the pieces that we've designed for print. We've also made that into posts for Instagram and Facebook so that a lot of people, since they are trying to stay at home, can still be up to date on our guidelines and get education about the virus and social distancing, etc. You'll go to the next one. we set up a landing page. Was one of the first things we did, along with those two print pieces. We've been keeping this up to date as everything changes, and I dare say, this is the only thing you're going to be able to keep up to date. So we've been putting our web address on most every piece that we print so that people can check the website for further information. If you go to the last one. We've also got, we use this site called SharePoint, and that's where we have placed all of our items. There's lots of different information for different teams that it's all in one place. So medical can find what they need. Communications teams at the hospitals can find what they need. When we have something get updated, we can pull the old file and put a new one up there. And that is sort of the quick and dirty about how we have been handling the situation here in Memphis. Ready for some questions.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Richard, there was a question asked specifically to you. It's like, when did you start creating these? I mean, how far into the crisis did you guys start?
We started having, I want to say we started having meetings in February, at the end of February. And the first, the flyer and the Miracling went to print on, I had like one day to lay it out, on Thursday, March 5th, and we sent it to print on Friday, March 6th, and had it delivered, the next week. We have found that you've got to just find partners that'll do the impossible right now.
Right, kind of like everybody else, I'm sure. Okay, now we're going to, since Richard's kind of part, was dealing with a hospital, somebody who is in this, all the time. We have a series of questions that I'm going to ask, and I would like for each one of the panelists to chime in and answer. And again, if anybody in the group has a specific question, just type that out and we will get to that as time permits. But the first question was, as soon as things hit the fan, many businesses jumped on announcing their COVID-19 statements. What do you think were some good examples of communicating these statements? In other words, what have you seen? Who did it right? Who did it wrong? You don't have to name the company, but what were just some general examples?
I saw a lot of, locally in Memphis, the ones that I saw the most were like on social media, and they would post about, their changes, if they were going to be closed temporarily or only have curbside pickup. That's where I saw a lot of it.
Okay. And Dana, you being in social media, what did you see?
Yeah, I would say the same. I think, many of our clients are in hospitality and in tourism and things like that. And so we work to get those up pretty quickly. And so we were among some of the first that were reaching out to see what other people were doing. Some of the best that we could do was to look to people who were a few weeks ahead of this, ahead of us in this, as far as dealing with it. And so looking to other states that had had more cases much earlier. And so, again, looking to those tourism and hospitality, because those were some of the first who were seeing those issues arise en masse and helping their constituents deal with them. So I saw some good examples there. Okay.
And Carrie, since you work a lot with corporations and large companies, how are you guiding them through the initial announcements and getting the word out?
So it's been an evolution. I think, again, within our client base, a large part of it is healthcare. Some of it is not. And so the answers to that really differ based on where you're coming from to the situation. But with our healthcare clients, it all really started out first and foremost by just trying to get out there and be in compliance. So initially, it was just all about trying to make sure we were helping them be buttoned down, reflecting that which was accurate. And and really just being another source of what to do and how to do it. That has evolved. And so now the conversations that we're really having with folks right now are really about more about how to affect behavior, not just about educating and informing, but also, kind of how to inspire in all of this. We're starting to see a lot of fatigue and just a tuning out of, we can only tell people so many times to wash their hands and cover their mouths and self-isolate and those kinds of things. And so now we're starting to see from our clients a recognition that we're at a different place. We are trying to get people to be more compliant. And in order to do that, we're having to be more creative, not just preach at them, but engage them. Really trying to not necessarily lighten or run the risk of being tone deaf, but really trying to figure out how to connect and tell stories. And talk a little bit about, why we all have a personal responsibility to do the things that we need to do to get through this. So we're finding that, 2 weeks ago, nobody wanted to have those conversations because they were, again, just shell-shocked and trying to figure out even just how to mobilize. But now we're having more of those conversations and less about just let's send out another email about something that people can get from hundreds of other sources right now.
Right. Great. Thank you. And Cindy, since you're kind of the voice of the community, you're the voice in the community of Birmingham for local businesses, restaurants, and you do a lot for them. What have you seen?
It's been pretty
The good and the bad.
phenomenal. Yeah. So I've been mightily impressed by our Mayor Woodfin. He is visible. He gets his team rallied. They have been communicating really proactively. And I think that has helped Birmingham City area lead this effort. And I would also say a huge hats off to the Community Foundation, who banded together and created Be Ham Strong with immediate resources for helping people. And I've watched those two. I know they're not businesses, but they're organizations. And behind the scenes, there must have been many, many long hours and lots of struggle to make that happen so flawlessly. I would also add, so BHAM now is a media company, and fortunately in this day and age, we're all digital. So that's been a benefit to us and to our clients so that we're not having to print and reprint. We do go back and correct pieces that we publish. So our team has had to pivot. If we use that word pivot one more time, we've got to come up with a new word. For ourselves and for our clients, and our mighty little clients that are still very active with BHAM now. But for the clients who've had to change, they've had to cancel their events and they've had to totally change their communication. It's been an exercise in creativity. And our team will have a conference call every single morning. And I saw some of the chat room comments that people are struggling a little with structure. And I think, we all find that some. It's easy to just work all day and all night, and every day becomes kind of like Groundhog Day. You feel like you don't know what day it is because you're not going to go out, you're not going to go to a restaurant, and you're working all day from home. So I think creating some structure has helped us. We have full team conference calls at 9:30 every morning. We have a round table. Everybody talks about what they're doing, what they're struggling with, what they found helpful. And so for Birmingham Now, we decided to make a really fast pivot in our earned media and wanted to do everything in our power to support local business, because that's what makes Birmingham special. It's our local shops, local restaurants, local brew pubs, and local nonprofits. So we immediately, I say immediately, it took my husband, our IT guru, a few days, put together a database and allowed every local nonprofit and business input their information of, can you buy online? Can you pick up on curbside? Can you donate? Because we want to be that source of what you can do.
And that's good, and that plays into our, into our very next question. And I'd like Dana, if you would kind of lead off with this one: is how important is positive messaging during this time?
Yeah, I would say it's key. I think Carrie mentioned that at a certain point, everyone has provided the CDC recommendations on how to avoid respiratory illness, right? And so in the early days, that was really helpful, and people took comfort in simple actions that they could take to help control their situation, their environment. And while that's important, as messages start to come through of the level of infection, of terribly, unfortunately, deaths that are occurring, and just as word spreads and fear kind of takes over, our clients have a wonderful opportunity and a responsibility, frankly, of the size of our social media audiences and of the people that are listening to them. And so we took the opportunity with many clients to begin to show the helpers, right? To show those that are in our community, corporate, nonprofit, whomever, who are working to make things better, who are putting their skills and their abilities to bear in order to improve the situation for everyone. And that really does two things, right? It starts to bring about hope in the midst of all of the doom and the anxiety that people are starting to fear as a result of what they're seeing on the news. But it also empowers them. It empowers them to look inside and say, well, what can I do? I have a sphere of influence. I have my skills and abilities. What can I do in order to improve the situation too? Because this is a marathon. We're preparing for several weeks of this. No one quite knows when the curve will flatten, but that's what we're all aiming for. And so in order to not create the fatigue, but in order to remain relevant and continuing putting out relevant messaging, and this is really across industries, that's the approach that we're taking. And that makes it so that when we do have specific messaging specific to the industries that we work with, people take that in because they know that we've been relevant to them along the way.
Awesome. Carrie, any thoughts on that?
I would just agree. I think that people are afraid right now. People don't know how it's going to turn out. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for brands to actually fill a role here by using their platform, their voice to show that this is going to turn out, it's going to be okay. So again, the trick is not to be tone deaf, not to get into a mode where we're exploiting a situation, but really not being afraid to show the humanity, looking for opportunity to look at, again, Dana used the word hope. I think that's exactly the right word. And really just sort of live up to, my suspicion is that almost all of our clients have some version of their mission as being to, inform and educate and inspire. Well, we've done a pretty good job of informing and educating, and so now we're really in that mode where, if we're going to be true to that mission, there's no better time than now to look for ways to inspire people to do the right thing for themselves and for others. So, agree with
and
that.
Richard, I know that you're on the internal side of a healthcare system, but what's the internal, what's the marching orders from your marketing teams about, tone and voice and positivity?
I'd say it's very in line with what you've been saying. We're trying to make sure that we provide a calm, empathetic voice, a reassuring voice. In our, we try to avoid any messaging that sounds negative, when we can, because people are frightened and scared and concerned about themselves and their loved ones. So anything we can do to reassure them that we're going to get through this and they're in good hands, that's what we're trying to communicate.
That's great. And that kind of, and that kind of, morphs into the next question, which is we've, talked about, tone and the important messaging, but what are you, Cindy, let's go to you. What are your top priorities when it comes to messaging?
Well, Birmingham now is this mix of ideas and tones. And while we are not hard-hitting news, we are newsy, and we are also very useful. But our differentiator is that we're fun. And so how are you fun in a time like this? It is tricky. There is some soft shoe dances, and our team has been bouncing ideas off of each other. Monday, we had a cartoon in our newsletter, and the newsletter writer sent this cartoon around, and she said, "Is this too early?" And it had a dog looking at a human, and the human had the plastic helmet and said, "I've told you not to touch your face." And we decided to go with it because I think we're needing that tone of being aware. I think we're all aware now and dealing with it. So emotionally helping Birminghamians deal with it in the best possible way we can. We've got to have a little bit of a sense of humor about it because we're human. And we want to give that tone that helps people through this, that helps them support local. And I think Carrie mentioned a term, not to be tone deaf. And, this is something that we've trained with our business development team too. This isn't the time for a hard-hitting pitch with clients. And I've seen some messaging on LinkedIn about this, that some marketing director will get a hard pitch from someone and it could just hit them wrong. It could be the wrong time for that kind of message. And at the same time, everybody wants their businesses to stay alive and keep thriving. So I think that is a business issue that all of us face. I think that taking into account the situation, acknowledging it right up front, but taking the time to show appropriate humor, appropriate things you can do, what you can do from your homes to support each other and to lift up Birmingham. I think that's something that we all need to do.
Okay. Dana, what role does tone of voice play in messaging?
Gosh, I would say everything. And, with our social media clients, we have established voice and tone, right? We have brand standards for all of them, and we're creating these messages really quickly. And so it's important. And what's wonderful about my team at Brand specifically, they're fantastic. But our social media program, I have team members who create all of the content for the social media programs for the brands that we serve. And so it's not a matter of sending something to another designer, another copywriter, and then putting those two together. They're intimately acquainted with and familiar with the tone, and they live that tone every day. So when something like this happens, they're able to quickly put that knowledge base to bear on behalf of a crisis scenario, on behalf of an ever-shifting scenario, right? Because there were some brands that it was most appropriate that we say almost nothing at all, right? And there were some brands, we worked, for instance, with Life South Blood Centers. And this was a time when they saw a sharp decrease in blood donation because everyone was concerned and didn't want to go outside as much, right? But blood collection is still an essential service. It's an essential activity. And so we had to find ways to make people feel comfortable with that again. Lifestyle's typical tone in social media posts, to your question, is gratitude, right? It's being delivered chiefly to people who've already donated. And so we show gratitude for that. And we think gratitude instills the willingness to give again and to encourage other people to give again. But this was a time when it was deeply serious. We are 130,000 units of blood down nationwide over the past week as a result of the coronavirus outbreak. People come and give blood now, please. And so it's a matter of being serious when you need to, and then extending that hope and different messaging on down the line. But again, it's the benefit of having studied and known and interacted with audiences on the daily basis on behalf of that brand in non-crisis time that helps us shift, to avoid using pivot again, to shift in order to meet the right tone according to what's happening on the day.
Very cool. Carrie, anything to kind of add to that?
I would just add that that what we really need to do is make sure that whatever we do, that it's relevant and that we're honest with ourselves about what role we should be playing in the conversation. I think we would probably all agree that just a tremendous amount of clutter has occurred because companies, businesses, brands have felt compelled to participate in the conversation. And I think that in some cases it's probably not been helpful because it does create just a lot of noise out there and causes probably more important, relevant messages to be ignored over time. So, I do think that there's potentially a place for most brands, but as Dana just said, I think that it's also very helpful when you look at what you're doing and what you want to happen and realize that maybe this is not the time for you to send out an email, with, the subject line being, COVID-19 update and have it, not really be something that moves the conversation forward. So that would be it. So, just not trying to be where we don't need to be. And then when we are going in, just, being as honest and relevant and sympathetic and dialed in as we can be.
Awesome. And Richard, from a design perspective, the same question, how do you balance the scale of urgency with friendliness?
We've got a great team. We've got an in-house copywriter, and we've got in-house PR team, and we're all working in overdrive right now. But we are trying to make sure that the copy that's coming to us, that we massage it so that it is empathetic and caring, and for lack of a better word, calming for our patients and staff. Because a lot of the time what the copy we get from the operational medical people is very, it's very like short, sweet, to the point, and can be kind of negative, So we try to massage it so that it's better for our patients. And,
okay. That's good.
It's sort of a balance.
Yeah. And kind of one thing for everybody, again, we still have a few more questions, but I did want to thank everybody for coming out and for signing up. We do have two $50 gift cards to Trey Luna, and that we're going to be giving away at the end of the webinar, just as a, kind of a thank you for coming, and see who the two lucky winners are, but then also it was kind of another way of trying to support a local business who's been very good to us. They have catered our Addies the last 4 years, as well as some luncheons. And some people decided to rip off their patio furniture night before last. And so we just wanted to show them a little bit of support. And, sometimes people can suck. And we see the best of people during times like this, but we also see some of the worst. And leading into that, this kind of is a question for everyone. And Cindy, we'll start with you. What's taking you by surprise as a communications professional since this outbreak started?
The whole thing. Boy, that is a big question. I think the speed with which the need for direction to the community and to businesses is changing. I think, I don't know if it was Carrie or Richard earlier that said the need is, I think it started weekly and then it's daily. And, I'm going to admit a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking, oh yeah, this is like a flu. It's not that bad. We're gonna kind of go business as usual and keep things going. And just suddenly that whole message changed. We've all been working from home now for a week and a half, and our team takes this very seriously. But the messaging of what you can and can't do changes daily. And that has created a whole unique situation for any kind of, I believe, marketing communications firm, especially when you're talking directly to the public, like BHAM now does, and you're serving clients. You want to make sure that they're relevant and that they're on point and that you do feel a responsibility that it needs to be accurate. Fortunately, we can go back and correct that. And I believe people are forgiving right now. If you see a message and you see that it's old and it tells you to go out and do something, I think we realize now that you can't correct everything in the world immediately when there's a new message, but you can certainly do your best to edit that and change that. But I think, this is a whole new speed that we're dealing with. And if it had been 20 years ago, I dare to think that it would be a lot slower, but technology allows it to be faster.
Carrie, what is, what's taken you by surprise as?
So in terms of being taken by surprise, I think that most people that are in our industry, most people watching us right now are kind of built for this. I mean, there's just something sort of almost masochistic about folks that go into this business in terms of loving challenges and being able to move quickly and liking the to a certain degree, just, the challenge that comes with knowing that you're going to find a way to get things done. And so I don't know that we've probably on some much smaller scale been here before in some ways, but what is definitely different about it that none of us could prepare for or thought we would ever see is just the magnitude of it. Mm-hmm. The fact that, what is the plan for today may not be exactly the plan for tomorrow. So just the degree to which things are changing and the finish line is, we don't know what that looks like now. So it's really just about, I guess, not so much about the tools we're using, but the degree to which we're all having to find ways to work together, and just the fact that we don't know if we're going to be doing this over the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months. And but at the same time that's daunting, it's also energizing, and it's something we'll all get through.
It is. Dana, how are you? Because I'm sure that in your position, you're having to not only guide clients, but also kind of talk them off the ledge a little bit. Those that are kind of in in panic mode, how are you communicating with them, or what's kind of, how are you guiding your clients?
Yeah, I would say, again, what's reassuring to everyone and no one at the same time is that ultimately there wasn't precedent for this, where everyone's pointing to 1918, but that was a time at which we didn't have any of the tools that we have right now. We had completely different methods for communication. The message might have been similar, but the way in which it's delivered, we have so many opportunities and so many differences. And I think looking to precedent in the ways that we can, I mentioned earlier, looking to what people who are facing this in similar situations a week ago, 2 weeks ago, looking to see what worked for them, because that's something that can bring comfort in an unexpected way when everyone else just seems to maybe have their hair on fire, because that does give us a little bit of ability to look forward and see, okay, this is something that we could be facing, and this is how we can then plan for that, right? Because I think planning so frequently as communicators, I think that's part of what took some people by surprise here, because they felt they were unable to plan. But when in reality, if you looked at those examples, we were able to discern, okay, these are the audiences that we need to reach most immediately. These are the components and the questions that people are having and are asking most frequently, so we can address those. And so doing that helped calm fears and helped us put forward a plan to really prioritize and put out the messaging that people needed to. And we're doing, we help clients communicate, but we also help with business strategy and with helping clients pivot and find new revenue streams for themselves. And so being able to keep calm and being able to look through and see long-term what this is going to do, and being able to forecast that in some way to look past the immediate chaos. We've been doing a good bit of that as well. And so I think that's been helpful, because when we are an agency, and so we have deep-seated relationships with these clients, and being able to say, okay, yes, we're going to take care of your messaging, but also we know your business intimately, and so we can help you. We can help you strategize. So there's been some comfort in that as well.
Awesome. Because I do know, and I loved what Carrie said earlier, for many people that, you get into advertising because you're kind of built for this. You're built for that, for that moment of adrenaline when push comes to shove, cranking out the message, delivering the product. I thought that was, really strong. And kind of as we move towards wrapping this up, I would like to, get each one of you just to, from your perspective, kind of somebody had asked a question. What advice do you wish that you had been that you had been given? In other words, what might have prepared you better for this, and then kind of what would your advice be to others? Because we have, in our room of 65 people, we have, some with lots of experience that are working for large agencies. We have independent contractors, so there's, just, from your experience, what could you, throw out there as what advice do you wish that you had been given? And then maybe if you could just kind of leave us with something. Richard, we'll start with you. Put you on the spot first.
I think for me, since I'm internal communications, I think I'd have to say that when you've got 22 hospitals and you're trying to get supplies out to everybody, I feel like I've got some flyers that we sent out that, I wish we had ordered on the low side instead of the high side, because things have changed, and so not the most up-to-date thing that we've produced. We still have to, although we also communicate, with folks digitally, we still need to be able to hand patients a printed piece. So I wish I had known at the beginning that we were probably going to have to print everything at the hospital due to the fast turnaround. So,
okay. Cindy?
I think always having a plan B and maybe a plan C. Because when you are working with clients who have an event, it's clear that things can change, whether it's an event or a plan that a particular company has. And even if the client is really certain in their messaging and in their plan, I think it's our jobs as media or consultants or advertising firms to plan for what could happen, plan for alternatives, and to be prepared and not expect the client to always have those ideas in their back pocket. So, we want to always in the future have, yes, we've got plan A, but we've got B and C just in case. And it creates, it takes a little more time, and it causes people to have to think a little deeper and more creatively. So, but as Carrie said, we're built for this. We love a creative challenge. So it just, I think is required now and in the future more than ever.
Okay. I did have Dana and Carrie. I do have a question that just came in, so I do want to kind of pivot a little bit. Has there been much reaching out to agencies or industry partners across the country who might be 2 to 3 weeks ahead of Birmingham in the terms of response and messaging? Some of the collaborative partners that you might have that might be in Washington or other places. Have you seen that?
I'll start. We have seen it at least in our own networks and the relationships that we've built, probably more of a willingness to collaborate and look for answers and kind of set our own egos aside in hopes of trying to just make sure that whatever we do is what should be done. So I would say this is a period of time where it's been a little bit humbling from that perspective. And I think I'm seeing overall a more of just of a willingness to collaborate and admit that maybe we don't, sitting in a room and in a vacuum have all the answers. So I would say, yeah, that's probably promoted a more collaborative environment.
Yeah, and I would say the same. I mentioned earlier that we did a good bit of looking to other industry partners, if not necessarily agencies, to see how they were handling similar situations, because best practices are best to demonstrate at times like this. I think too, we actually have reached out to other agency partners this week on some key opportunities for some healthcare clients who are launching special capabilities that are going to be a particular service to people moving forward, and just looking to see how they've handled certain pitches or certain launches in the past. And so that is one benefit of this, right? Is that everyone is a little bit more eager to help. Everyone is in the mode of doing what they can to make sure that everyone, feels empowered and able to contribute at a time that otherwise we're kind of holed up in our homes and not necessarily feeling as connected. And so those are ways that we can do that.
Very cool. We did get a comment from Drew, who works for Altec. And, he had mentioned that, that they had the opportunity to work with their teams in China in December regarding how to handle it. So at least they had learned, from somebody who was, 4 or 5 months ahead of us, and before it came over here. Are there any, parting thoughts or any just something that's popped into your head during this that you would like to kind of leave us with before we announce our winners? And again, on behalf of AAF and everybody else who's been in here, thank you for taking time out of your schedules to make what I hope is the only virtual luncheon that we have to do. And but if not, we appreciate you you've been our guinea pigs too, so we appreciate your patience with us, as well as sharing your knowledge and expertise. But kind of any parting thoughts?
I'll jump in because I've got to dive off onto another call right now. But first of all, just thank you for inviting me and letting me participate, and thanks to everybody who showed up. I think that as scary a time as it is right now, I do think that it's an opportunity for us all to do something that matters, that we can feel really good about, to take what we do for a living and really make a difference in the lives of others right now. And I just really, again, just encourage everybody just to, continue to try to be right, but also, be bold, and we'll get through this. So again, thanks to everybody, and I'm going to dive off now, and call me if you need me.
Awesome. Thank you, Kerry. Dana? Oh, sorry. Rich?
I guess I would say, please have patience with your medical providers, and please follow their directions, even if it seems, an abundance of caution. We're all trying to get through this, and it just helps when people are not panicked when they go to their doctor or hospital.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say, I want to express gratitude to everyone to the participants on the call. I looked through the list earlier and I just see so many familiar names, and it's times like these that I think of the responsibility that we have as communicators that are essentially helping mold the voice and the message for the largest corporations in the state, having nonprofits that are having tremendous impact, to businesses that are having impact in small and big ways. And just you guys are doing fantastic jobs. I've seen so much good work out there. I've seen work that I can tell is the result of good insight and good counsel. And, these are the days that matter for us all, even more so than on the regular. So I just thank everybody for your professionalism, and I'm proud to work in Birmingham.
And Dave, departing thought from Birmingham now. So this is our little logo here, our head from social media. And we appreciate Birmingham and also your organization very much for the support and being on the panel. And we know that Birmingham is strong, and we know that we're going to get through this. And I think just showing compassion and helping each other in this time. And Birmingham is great at that. That's what Birmingham excels at. So we are very hopeful that the future will be bright.
Awesome. And again, and just wanted to, throw out a couple of things. I know that, Dana had mentioned, them putting together a blood drive in the middle of everybody in the middle of the panic. And I believe, how many donations did you guys, how many people came out for that?
I think we had 20. Yeah, we had 20 donuts that day.
I mean, that's awesome, because there are a lot of people that were like, I can't go give blood because I can't get out. But again, just, creative thinking like that benefits the Birmingham area is just, is amazing. And, again, thank you for doing that. Cindy, for all the communication that you guys are putting out, keeping Birmingham positive. Also, absolutely, love what Richard has said. If you guys will look in the comment section, he has put links to some of the materials and some of the videos that his hospital group has produced. If you want to look at those, those are there. And I know that he's worked with us at United Ability to just giving us some ideas and some direction on signage and how many to print, not to print, and everything else. And again, thank you to all of our panelists. Thanks for all you guys for coming out. The winners of our 2 gift cards are Ashley Little and Jake Webb. And if you 2 guys would email info@aafbirmingham.com, then we'll make sure that you get your cards. And again, somebody had kicked around the idea of doing a virtual cocktail party on how to deal with working at home. Maybe we'll put that into the works. But again, thanks for all your support, all that you guys are doing. Have a great day, and feel free to message us, email, send us a smoke signal, anything. But we just appreciate you being here. Have a great day, y'all.